Good morning. Don't know what happened there. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fun day? I do need to address this one. Dan Cullen. Good morning, Dan. Says, nice sweet. Nice sweet. You weren't watching me in the background, were you? I hope that's not the case because I haven't been clothed for most of it. It's a whole other story. Good morning to Dan Cullen. Good morning to, where is he? Gary Muirhead's here somewhere. He's there. Good morning, Gary. Who says, good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Happy birthday to my little sister, Kelly, this morning. There's June Turner is here as well. Yes, Mark Whiting is here as well. Chris Ford, good day to you all. May your pipes never go rusty. Obscure, but thank you. Very grateful for that. You may have noticed that I'm wearing, let me do it that way. There you are. I'm supposed to kiss the badge, but you won't be able to see it behind the microphone. But I am wearing a different shirt today. This one is in honour of the mighty West Ham, who travelled all the way to the frozen northeast last night and returned to the East End of London, clutching 3 highly, highly precious points. Don't get to wear this anywhere near as often as I would quite like. Well, at least without ridicule anyway. Incidentally, if there are any Newcastle fans watching this show, wow, how crap are your lot? You lost 2-0 to West Ham at home. Yeah, you really did. Good morning to Mark Whiting is in the house. Thank you very much indeed for being here, Mark. And good morning to everybody that's watching over on Instagram as well. Before we get into the show, I'd like to share something with you very, very quickly. And it is only about 15 seconds, so bear with me. As you know, about a week ago, I had a good long chat with the former convention chairman of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors, Mr. Patrick Williamson. Still beavering away on the resulting video, which is now almost ready to roll. But I was watching it back last night, and I was struck by just how many times Patrick managed to slip in the names of the great, the good, and well, some other people along the way. If ever you wanted an actual lesson in name dropping, this is the video for you. Get a load of this.
David Darcy, Senator Paul Coughlin of Killarney, Enda Kenny, Sidney Hunt, Ford Brown, Duncan Rodell, Winston Churchill, Rebecca Burr, Gary Bishop, John Ring, David Clark, Ross Turner, John Lynch, Dan Doyle.
And that's not even a comprehensive list. He managed to drop in, I don't know, the current president of the NFDC, a big handful of former presidents, a pair of Irish dignitaries, and Winston Churchill. That's a pretty good half an hour well spent, I think. You will be able to see the whole thing very, very soon. And I am still thinking about putting the unexpurgated version behind a firewall. I'll keep you posted on that. But speaking of such things, my interview with the new IDE president, Adrian McLean, will drop at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. I'm not going to do a live show around it because I'm out and about, but I've scheduled it to be broadcast without me. So you'll be able to watch it over on YouTube, on Facebook, but probably easier still, you can catch it on demolitionnews.com. 7 o'clock tomorrow night. You know, anywhere that you normally watch this, you'll be able to watch that. Plain and simple. So yes, lots of stuff to come. So without further ado, let me just a quick look at the chat because something's just come through. Ken Hatter is here. Good morning, Ken. And he says, new site day. Always interesting, the new site day. Speaking of such things, well, I'll tell you in just a moment, but I'm cranking the sarcasm up to the max for my morning monologue today, and we're talking about recruitment and advertising and stuff like that. So let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Tuesday, the 26th of November, my little sister's birthday. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, we are busting bridges in Texas. John Deere's damage avoidance system goes under the spotlight. We're putting Liebherr's remote control system to the test, and how Komatsu helps increase productivity with its payload monitoring technology. Plus, as I've already alluded to, In my morning monologue, I'll be cranking the sarcasm up to the max and sharing with you an honest job advertisement for a role in demolition construction. And as if that weren't enough, well, we've already done the Patrick Williamson bit, so I won't bore you with that any longer. Before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine, which looks a bit like this. Yeah, can anyone stop the runaway train of Mystery Machine success that is Dan Cullen? We shall see. Here is the machine you need to identify today. I think we all know what that roughly is, but I need a make and a model, if you would be so kind. Obviously, we would do the usual slow reveal, but I need from you a make and a model for that particular mystery machine. Dan Cullen is still catchable. I mean, he's got a very healthy lead. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's on 21 points, and we've got about a week and a bit to go, thereabouts. No, we haven't. It looks like he's going to win again. Ignore everything I've just said. Just play for fun in that case. But yes, we need to know the mystery machine, make and model, if you would be so kind. While you're thinking about that, let me very quickly remind you about today's question of the day, which looks like this. Yep, our question of the day for today is this. What is a festive tradition you could quite easily live without? Now, personally, I love turkey and stuffing and Christmas pudding and mince pies. I like exchanging gifts, spending time with the family, Christmas telly, all of that kind of stuff. But the Christmas tree, what an absolute ball ache, or maybe that should be bauble ache. We've got an artificial tree, so in the next few weeks, I'll be expected to dredge it out of deep storage, reassemble it, and unravel the multitude of fairy lights that were thrown into the box in January last year like so much spaghetti. My other, should that be better half, will then make it look pretty and festive for about 2 weeks, after which we'll disassemble the whole bloody thing and throw it back in the box. Personally, I'd rather throw the whole thing on a fire, but that's just me. I am a curmudgeon. I am a bar humbug merchant. But what about you? What is a Christmas tradition that you could quite easily manage without? Jim Turner reckons that our mystery machine, which looks like this, could be a Volvo duck. It's not. Yeah, but you're kind of headed in the right direction. Gary Muirhead says, in answer to the question of the day, first foot. I've no idea. It's a Scottish New Year tradition where you stand outside your front door just before midnight, New Year's Eve, with a bottle of whiskey. Once the bell strikes midnight, you enter your home and you're the first foot of the new year. I've never heard of that before. I know a friend of mine who was, he was actually an English guy, but he lived in Scotland for quite some time. And he said that one of the joys that he had when he was living there, he lived in a bit of a cul-de-sac. And he said on New Year's Eve, he would leave his house with a bottle of scotch in his hand, and he would go next door, and they'd all have a dram of his whiskey, and then they'd all put their coats back on and go to the next house along, and they'd do the same again with somebody else's whiskey, and they'd gradually work their way around the cul-de-sac, basically crawling home the final leg. Is that a thing? Was that peculiar to him? I don't know. That's what we need to know. Mystery Machine, we've already had one guess at a Volvo duck from Jim Turner. Gary Muirhead is going for the Volvo ECR 88 Plus. It is not, but very much the right ballpark. Here's a bit more, and here's a bit more still. You're in the right direction, but you're not quite there yet. Make a model, if you would be so kind. I think we already know what the make is, but keep the guesses coming in. I'm going to be right back in just a moment with a really good video of some bridge demolition all the way from Austin in Texas. So stick around. Yeah, very quickly, we've had a guess from Dan Cullen, who says it could be a Mechalak 9 MWR. It could, but it's not. Here's a smidge more. As you can see, that looks like some tracks right there. Therefore, not a duck, not a duck. It may walk like a duck and talk like a duck, but it is not, in this instance, a duck. Dan is going for the EW60 from Volvo. It is not one of those. Gary's going for the ECR 25 electric. Not one of those either. You're all close, but no cigar quite yet. I promise you some Demolition from Austin in Texas. Sit back and enjoy.
To my card, I know what it costs. Yeah, I put in the work that you don't. Day after day, I work in the play. Yeah, I'll do all the things that you won't. Even when my feet get tired, I will keep on moving higher. I'm the story you don't speak of. I'm the one they call the underdog. Cause every time the push comes to shove, I'm climbing over you to reach the top. Cause I want everything and nothing at all. Yeah, I want everything and nothing at all. Cause I want everything and nothing, nothing at all. Don't care what you think, what you believe, cause I'm gonna turn the world upside down. If you want a shot, just step in the ring. Yeah, I'ma shake your bones like thunder. Even when my feet get tired, I will keep on moving higher. I'm the story you don't speak of. I'm the one they call the underdog. Every time the push comes to shove, I'm climbing over you to reach the top. Cause I want everything and nothing at all. Yeah, I want everything and nothing at all. Cause I want everything and nothing at all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. I don't want nothing at all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. Nothing at all.
Great film, great soundtrack, top job, Venditti Demolition. Really did enjoy that. Mick Norton, I'm not going to put your answer to our question of the day on screen. We have younger viewers. Not often, but we do have some younger viewers. I'm not putting it on the screen. I don't want to ruin things for anyone. But if you're watching this and you happen to be on Facebook, have a look. You can see Mick's comment rather. Speaking of Jim, there we are. Question of the day: what is a festive tradition you could do without? Jim, I think you and I should probably spend Christmas together. He says, Christmas cards, wrapping paper, presents for grown-ups, being nice, and overly sociable. Yeah, I've got to be honest, that's a tradition I could do without 365 days of the year, but you're absolutely right. I can tell you we do have, shock horror, we have a winner of our mystery machine, and guess what? It's not Dan Cullen. Has he slipped? Has something gone horribly wrong? Has Dan lost the power? I honestly can't tell you, but I can tell you that the winning answer is that. Gary Muirhead. Congratulations, Gary. He correctly identified that our mystery machine is, in fact, a Volvo ECR 40. It is indeed an ECR 40. Top job, Gary. Lots of good guesses from Dan Cullen, who seem to be going right around the edges. There you can see he went for the 88D, the 25D, the 50D. Just missed out on the 40D. But congratulations, Gary. Well, I don't think it's going to make a great deal of difference to the end result. I think Mr. Cullen is going to be winning again. But that's where we are, I'm afraid. Congratulations, Dan, on probably another victory this month. I'm going to be right back in just a moment with John Deere and how they are minimising damage from impact, basically.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, let's talk damage avoidance and let's talk John Deere. I'll let them explain.
Machine damage avoidance, or MDA, assists operators of all experience levels from costly damage to the machine even well in the most complex machine orientations. This feature automatically stops the moldboard from contacting the steps and tires while also preventing contact between the saddle and the draft frame. If an operator needs to temporarily disable MDA, they can do so using the pop-up that appears when the circle rotate command is restricted. Pushing the checkmark/select button on the monitor will disable MDA for 5 minutes, allowing the operator to move the blade where they need to. After the 5 minutes has expired, the software will check if the blade is back in the safe zone and re-enable MDA automatically. If the operator is doing a continuous task where they want to keep MDA disabled for a long period of time, the menu has an option to disable until power cycle. This will allow the operator to complete all their tasks, and once the machine is shut off and turned back on, it will automatically re-enable machine damage avoidance. For operators that work in more complex blade configurations, such as ditching on a regular basis, there is a menu item to turn MDA off. This will permanently disable MDA until re-enabled in the monitor. This is not recommended because it requires an operator to plan to turn it back on, and a new operator might not know that it is equipped on the machine. Machine damage avoidance is active in saddle positions L2, L1, center, R1, and R2. When the operator switches to a banked position, L3 or R3, machine damage avoidance will be disabled and a pop-up will be displayed to indicate this. It is recommended to keep machine damage avoidance active during general machine operation. The feature easily re-enables itself when in the safe zone, preventing any restrictions on operator productivity.
So now you know. We're going back. Chris Ward says, Mystery Machine, phone goes down just as I'm about to make a winning guess, but then didn't come back online until it's been already guessed. Conspiracy theory or what? Yeah, Gary Muirhead has sent a jamming signal to your phone to stop you winning. Like it's going to make any difference. Dan Cullen says, great video. Thank you very much indeed. He also says, I don't know why he's hopping from YouTube to Facebook, but he is. Love a grader, not seen many working lately compared to years ago. Chris Will, back on the subject of Christmas and traditions we could do without. Friends you choose, relatives you're stuck with. Oh, ain't that the truth? And Gary Muirhead says this. He says, what about Snowball, a traditional Christmas drink? Yes, made with Avocar, right? Or Advocar, rather. One of those rare occasions where something smells way, way, way better than it tastes. Love making my missus a Snowball. Would never think to drink one. Yeah. Jim Turner says, Christmas presents should be for kids only. People trying to find crap to buy for folk. Vice versa, just a massive waste of time and money. I don't buy it before. I don't buy anyone anything. I don't do birthdays either. Bar humbug indeed. I have to say, this is the first year we as a family, the six of us, myself, my wife, 4 children, have agreed we are going in for a Secret Santa where we've all chosen somebody at random and they will get a gift and that's it. Obviously I've got grandchildren to worry about. They will get a lot more than that, but that is the plan for this year. I don't know. I can't actually remember who I've got, but I don't know who's got me. It might work out well for me. It might work out badly. We shall see. Gary Muirhead, going back to the subject of graders, we've got a Cat 16H grader working on this project just now, keeping the Haul Roads fantastic kit. Yeah, big old lump that 16H. Yeah, not the biggest, but it's a proper lump, no question about it. What have we got up next? Oh yeah, remote control from Liebherr. Stick around. That's a corker. That is. Oh, we've tapped a very, very rich vein of vitriol here. Dan Cullen, question of the day. All the money wasted on unwanted presents and spent on technology, large family dinners, a nightmare. They are quite hard work, aren't they? They are quite hard work. And what astounds me about it, well, aside from the fact that it costs an absolute bloody fortune, we will sit down on Christmas Day. There will be, let me think, 8 of us for Christmas dinner or for Christmas lunch. Late afternoon, I guess. Why is it so difficult? You know, we have a roast dinner in this house every once in a while, you know, not every week like we used to, but we certainly have it fairly regularly. Not a problem at all, you know. The wife pops out, does a bit of meat, does a bit of veg, whacks it on the table, everyone's happy. Christmas dinner, man alive, you're cooking for weeks in advance. Everything has to be done spot on at the right time. Awful bloody business. Jim Turner says the missus buys folk stuff, but I have nothing to do with it. You're well out of it. Gary Muirhead say, sorry, Chris Ford, for sending the jamming signal down your way. Mick Norton, apologies for upsetting Santa's little helpers. Oliver Cromwell got it right when he banned Christmas. Oh, boy. Where are we? The 27th of November. We've probably got a month of all the reasons we don't want Christmas. The question of the day could become the gripe of the day. Do you remember we used to do that? We used to do a gripe on a regular basis. Now, remote control machines. Obviously, given my passion for all things demolition related, whenever I think about remote control machines, I always think about the safety that they could impart to the demolition industry, where they allow people to work at a long distance away from falling debris, collapsing buildings and stuff. Great application. But also, what about a military application for a remote control machine? Yeah, Liebherr have got that covered. Pretty cool, right? Imagine that. Imagine going to work in a nice office where you get to drive a dozer, a Liebherr dozer, no less. Dan Cullen says, look at that, an empty field. Yeah, maybe that was the best way to do it. Love that, he says. Now, he also says, what about your Spotify playlist? What about my Spotify playlist? I have several. I did compile a Spotify playlist of songs with a demolition theme. So Queen's Waiting for the Hammer to Fall and stuff. Sledgehammer, I think, was in there by Peter Gabriel. Bunch of stuff. If you want me to dig out the link to that, I'll have to do it tomorrow because I won't be able to find it immediately. But yeah, I'll keep you posted on that. Gary Muirhead, going back to all things Christmas related, people will get themselves into debt for Christmas and then spend the rest of the year paying it off. Can you imagine that? I mean, you know, listen, I appreciate and admire anyone that's generous. I think that's a lovely trait to have. But to get yourself in debt just to give your friends and family something that they probably could have got themselves. Dan Cullen says, remember a family tradition we visited all our friends and cousins, have 2 drinks in every house. All got home and had a bunch of bottles of whiskey. But it was a lovely, quiet evening. And the tinned biscuits were given out to the next house, so literally was past the parcel. Yeah, brilliant. Jim Turner says, don't get me wrong. I love Christmas. It's just certain bits I don't comply with. I live a simple life of only doing the things I want to do. It's the route to happiness. I see you must have a very, very special other half, because that's how I'd like to live my life. How I'm told to live my life, however, is I need to embrace that which makes me uncomfortable or angry or frustrated or annoyed. That's how my wife basically lays out my social calendar. Footy's just joined us. Morning, Footy. Question of the day today, what is a bit of Christmas or the festivities that you don't like? Still time to get your answer in, if you would be so kind. One final film, and then I'm going to crank the sarcasm up for my morning monologue today. We'll be back in just a moment with Komatsu's payload monitoring system.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I'm not going to do this because obviously my wife would stab me to death, but I'm almost tempted to host a show on Christmas Day because it appears that most people are quite keen to duck out of Christmas entirely. Footy says, Christmas humbug. That's what I say, humbug. As if saying it once wasn't enough. Humbug, he says. Dan Cullen also says, yes, I know people that do the same, Gary, because new phones and computers are too expensive. And bearing in mind, we are in the week, this is Black Friday week, isn't it? Yes, the likes of Amazon and all of those busily cranking up the prices of their goods so that come Black Friday, they can reduce them and convince everyone they've got a good deal. Yeah, we're watching you, Amazon. We know what you're all about. We know exactly what you're doing. I promised you some Komatsu payload monitoring, and then I promised you a morning monologue. You'll get both, but it's Komatsu first. Awesome stuff from Komatsu, as always. Dan Cullen says, yep, all shops do the same, raise prices, then Black Friday, take them down to original price or a few pence below. This Black Friday is a load of bollocks. It is. And it's another one of those things we seem to have inherited from our American cousins, like proms and Halloween and other such tosh. Yeah. And you get clowns queuing overnight to be first in. Yeah, can you believe it? The other one, my wife's cafe, I've mentioned this before. My wife had a cafe in a shopping centre over in Sutton, a few miles up the road from where I'm sat right now. And the next, the shopping or the retailer next, they would start their their January sale on Boxing Day. And Boxing Day queued round the block. And when you actually went in there, which I didn't do very often, but when you went in there, a lot of people were queuing up to buy furniture and that kind of thing. And there were some discounts to be had, but virtually everything that was up for grabs was old stock. It wasn't, that fancy new jumper you've had your eye on, now you can buy at half price. It was, that jumper you looked at 6 months ago and thought, who the hell would wear that? Well, you can now get that half price. No, I don't understand it. It's not that she's special. This is talking about wives, I think, but she knows me and the way I am. I suppose the good must outweigh the bad, or we'd be parted years ago. Yeah, my wife is an object lesson in tolerance. That's all I can say. She is the ultimate social person. My wife will make friends everywhere, even with people that have no intention of being friends with anyone. That's what the way I would rather keep the entire world. I mean, this suits me fine. This suits me fine. You're a lovely bunch of people, but you're also behind a camera. Yeah, that's it. So my wife, very tolerant indeed. Anyway, that's about it for the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping into my morning monologue. Gazelle-like, as always. If you can't stick around for that, then do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very, very soon. If you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after this. I just want to throw this up. Dan Cullen, she's the same as me. I could make friends in a wilderness. Yeah, Dan, I've met you. I can believe that to be true. No question about it. Right, morning monologue after this. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a bit of a trend on YouTube and other social media platforms. It's called honest reviews. Some people are doing honest reviews of Gordon Ramsay restaurants where they say, oh, great food, but eye-watering prices, or movies, perhaps. Great spectacle, didn't have a clue what was going on. So I thought it was high time that we took a look, similar approach to a subject that's close to the heart of anyone that works in the field of demolition and construction. And my target du jour is recruitment advertising. Whether the advert is from the employer itself or from a third-party agency, I think we can all agree that the description of some of the jobs on offer is not always quite as honest as perhaps it might be. So make yourselves comfortable, sit back while I put it right, or I attempt to anyway. Excuse me, here we go. Wanted, demolition and construction workers. The successful candidates will hold a professional competence card, even though we both know it's largely meaningless. In fact, we'll make you sit an additional internal test before we allow you anywhere near any of our sites. But even though we have no faith in the validity of your competence card, we will expect you to renew it regularly at your own expense. Successful candidates will be required to work long hours, often in deeply unpleasant conditions. Your workplace is in the blazing sun, the pouring rain, or the freezing cold, often all in the same week. In summer, the sun will scorch your back as sweat stings your eyes, while in winter, icy winds will cut through every layer you have on. Work hours will stretch beyond human endurance, but you will be regularly challenged and berated by your less experienced superiors from the comfort of their ergonomic chairs in climate-controlled offices. You will, of course, be supplied with PPE, but it will be dirty and ill-fitting. Please guard it as though it was made of the purest silk, as you'll only receive a single set. The greatly inflated cost of replacement PPE will be deducted from your wages at source. You may be required to work at height despite the industry's full acknowledgement of how dangerous that is. You'll also work right alongside heavy equipment that is utterly indifferent to your existence and that could run over you and keep going without so much as a jolt. If you're lucky, there may be a competent operator behind the wheel. And all the materials you'll work with, there's asbestos, that silent killer lurking in old buildings, and PCBs, a toxic hangover from the past. As a bonus, we will toss in lead, silica dust, and a cocktail of other chemicals whose long-term effects are just waiting to catch up with you. Please note that our medical care does not cover your exposure to any of these, and we will insist that any long-term effects you may suffer were picked up elsewhere with another company. The successful candidate will be required to demonstrate enormous mental resilience, as you will work under constant pressure and stress to meet deadlines that are, frankly, unrealistic. Your supervisor will promise the client the impossible, but you'll be the one sweating bullets to deliver it. You'll be working as part of a team that includes several racist bigots, 2 drunks, an aggressive and vocal homophobe who is actually a deeply closeted gay man, a drug addict and dealer, a misogynist, and a known psychopath with undiagnosed Tourette's and a history of violence. If you encounter any issues during work hours, you can speak freely to the psychopath, who will likely view you as a troublemaker and encourage you to leave the site, the company, and the industry. His decision is final. Successful applicants will also get the opportunity to travel, so pack your bags, say goodbye to your family and friends, and leave behind your support network, your GP, your dentist, and your routine. You'll miss birthdays, anniversaries, and your kids' first steps because the job site is miles away and your presence there is non-negotiable. You'll be expected to demonstrate full and unrelenting dedication and commitment, but if anyone so much as mentions the words recession or downturn, we will drop you like a hot brick. Successful applicants will work now and hope to get paid later, possibly much later. You will be paid when the developer has paid the main contractor, when the main contractor has paid the subcontractors, and when your employer has paid off his debts, assuming there's any money left. Please be aware that even though this is an honest job ad, it is entirely disingenuous. There is no actual job. We're just testing the water, flying a kite, seeing who's in the market. If and when a job arises, we will offer you steady work, decent pay, and a start date as soon as possible. Then, when you show up ready to go, you may find the project is on hold or cancelled. In the likely event of this happening, you'll be sent home unpaid with nothing to show for your wasted time and effort. If all of this sounds exciting, please apply using the link to our website that doesn't work. We look forward to welcoming. Let me do that again. We look forward to welcoming you to our team. Close? Was that close to reality? I'd love to get your thoughts on it. It's the tism. There is I will come back to the recruitment thing in just a moment. I'll come back to you in a second, Gary. But yeah, there is just, I don't know, maybe 10 miles up the A3 from where I'm sat now. There is a leisure centre called the Guildford Spectrum. And there's a saying in our house because of, the spectrum. If anybody is slightly blessed with the tisms, yes, they are a little bit Guildford. They're on the spectrum. Yes, absolutely. Gary Muirhead says, what about coming up with a video message Christmas card that everyone on the show can produce and you, Mark, could play them out live? I'll leave it up to you. We've done this sort of before. Bear with me 1 second. Let me show you exactly what it is. Like this.
Hi, I'm Gary Muirhead, and you're watching The Breakfast Show.
So, obviously, Gary filmed that. He filmed it.
Hi, I'm Gary Muirhead, and you're watching The Breakfast Show.
As I was saying, before I rudely interrupted myself, Gary filmed that. I'm guessing he filmed that on his phone. If you would like to send the greater demolition and construction industry a Christmas message, try to keep it clean, but don't feel obliged. If you would like to do that, get hold of your phone, put it on selfie mode, film, and make sure it's that way around, because that's the format we like. Put it that way around, record it, send it to me, and I'll either play them individually or we'll do a collective one. Gary, fantastic idea. If anyone would like to send us a Christmas message, please do so. And while we're about it, don't forget also, when I can find it, that you can do that too. You can leave us a voicemail message at speakpipe.com/demolition news. If you're not comfortable doing video, you could leave us an audio Christmas message, if that's how the fancy takes you. Going back to the comments, what do we got here? Honest review about construction. Where do I start? Lies by former to recruitment company on work time required. Number 2, no thanks and over-exaggerated team players. 3, either your face don't fit or you're not the same ethnicity as others on site. And lies fly and you're no good. 4, your reliability is a must. Yeah, I think I covered a lot of those. I did cover a lot of those, but And I know I've done it tongue in cheek. I'm deliberately being sarcastic with all of this. But that is actually, I've exaggerated for artistic license, but that is actually the way these things work. How many of you guys have applied to a job ad only to find that the job doesn't actually exist? It is just basically either a recruitment agency or an employer testing the market, seeing who's out there. How many of you have applied for a job only to be told, oh, it's you're paid you're paid monthly, but our payment time starts at the big the 15th of the month. So if it is the first of the month, you'll have to work for 6 weeks before you get paid. Have you had any of that? Have you been told, the job that we're sending you to is 12 miles from your front door? Fantastic. And you get there, no, actually, your job is now 100 miles up the road, 200 miles up the road in the Shetlands. Have you had any of that? Love to hear from you. Dan Cullen says, this industry is pushing people out of it and not enticing people into this with all the bullying, and many are only gathering numbers. Yeah. And it is, I mentioned this term possibly yesterday, this idea of a race to the bottom. If through the abolition of grandfather rights, we're pushing a bunch of very experienced workers and potential mentors to the edge. We're pushing those to the door, and some of them may choose to stick around, but some of them won't. Some will either take early retirement or they'll go and do something else. Not enough people coming up, young people coming in, and even the young people that do come in. I mentioned things like the working conditions. You imagine, you go to, you're a 16, 17-year-old lad, and you go to your mum, you'll be so pleased. I've landed myself a job with a construction company or a demolition company. I went through the interview process. They've offered me the job. And you go off and you do your first day, and you come home, PPE under your arm, and you're looking all proud. And your mum says, how was it? Well, I had to pee in a hole in the ground because the toilet had broken down. And the guys on site all basically bullied me. One of them actually punched me at one point. There was a girl starting on the same day, but they harassed her so much that she cried and left at lunchtime. Can you imagine how many? I wonder how many people. I know we talk about the difficulties of attracting young people into the industry. I wonder how many people we actually attract that actually make it to site and then go, oh, sod this. There's no way I'm sticking with this. I wonder. I don't suppose those stats are available, but if anyone knows, I'd love to hear from you. I applied for 35 jobs yesterday and today, and I might have one. Have to call it 12 if I've got it. See, there seems to be this weird imbalance of, on the one hand, we have a skills shortage. And on the other, we have people, with experience and skill, like your Dan, who is out of work. Again, I don't know how long Dan's been watching this show. I reckon most of the 4 and a bit years that we've been doing it. Over the course of that period, Dan, how many times have you actually been out of work? Off the top of my head, I'm going to go 7, 8, maybe more. And I realise that there is that is kind of the nature of this business. You work on a job, the job's over, you're then back into the job market and so on down the line. But the number of times, I can remember the number of times that you've basically been forced to quit for one reason or another, not because the job is done, but because the environment, the people were intolerable, and therefore how are we allowing that to continue? Where is the check? Not at the site level, but above that. So imagine Dan was talking about a site supervisor he had issues with about a week ago. So imagine you're running a site. Let's just say small housing site, maybe a dozen guys on there, half a dozen of them driving excavators or diggers or whatever it might be. That is the requirement. That is how many people you need to bring home those houses, plus all the foundations and the draining and everything else. That's how many people you need to bring home that project. There will be somebody, probably office-based, who will be overseeing that, who says, okay, well, we need 12 guys. We've done the recruitment. We've given the site 12 guys. Why are we only paying 10 sets of wages, 9 sets of wages, 8 sets of wages? Hello, is that the site supervisor? Yeah, we appear to be a few men short. What's the problem? Oh, 4 of them quit. At which point, should there not be a question like, why? We can understand one person quitting or, somebody falling by the wayside, didn't like the work conditions, didn't like the location or whatever. But 4? Why are you churning staff at this rate? At which point it might become clear that the site supervisor is a certified lunatic. Would that not be a check that you'd be doing if you were running a site or overseeing multiple sites? Why are you churning staff? Well, we don't have hot and cold running water. We don't have toilet facilities. If anyone is female, coloured in any way, gay, we abuse them. Would that not be the way to fix that? You think? Dan Cullen says 4 letdowns last minute, 10 o'clock last night, 2 potential failures of jobs last week, 1 machine was broke down and then told no work next day. How are you supposed to stay in an industry that does that? I realise there isn't a Lord overseer of demolition and construction. I'm not naive enough to believe that there is some divine power hovering above us all who would actually grieve his loss. But imagine Dan just went, after all of this, 4 letdowns, 2 potential failures, machine broke down, lunatic site supervisor last week, whatever it might be. If he just went, do you know what? Enough. I've done 25, 30 years in construction. I've had it. I'm going to go and work in a warehouse or a factory or a retailer or something. We have just lost somebody with experience, with knowledge, with expertise. And let's be clear here, Dan is not unique. I'm sure there are many things that are unique about him. But listen, there you are. There you are, proof of the pudding. I put my name in a few local warehouses yesterday, doing the same today, going to do the same. Yeah. So there could come a time in the next week, the next month, possibly after Christmas, where somebody with all of that experience, all of that expertise, all of that knowledge, all of that willingness to help the next generation just goes, that's it, I'm done, I'm off, you're on your own. How many Dans are out there? How many people are looking at work in this industry now and going, do you know what? I don't need this anymore. I genuinely don't need this level of grief and unpleasantness. I don't need the constant threat of being unemployed. I don't need to be running up to Christmas wondering whether I can put food on the table or presents in my children's stockings and stuff. Do we still have stockings? I guess we do. How many people are doing that? And then the ultimate bit with that is this loss of grandfather rights. And I know it's a drum I keep banging, but it's next month. That's when it's all over and done with. Imagine at a time when we can't retain staff as it is, we are taking probably our longest serving, our most knowledgeable and our most experienced and most expert workers and saying either you sit in MVQ or you can piss off. Mick says, I see the spirit of Christmas is alive and well on here today on my son's laptop. So had you no idea, but he's on his son's laptop, which is why his name's coming through slightly differently. That's a handsome dog, though. A handsome dog. Jim Turner says, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not on the screen anymore. You can see the top of my hat. Had a job once where they didn't deliver what they said they would. Mess me too much. Everyone was shit scared of the gaffer. He ended up trying to shout me down in front of his men. That didn't go to plan because they didn't back down to him. I gave him an ultimatum of what I expect to happen by a certain day or I'm off elsewhere. I didn't get what I wanted, so I started with someone else. He couldn't give me what I wanted, as everyone heard me tell him, and he stormed off, chuntering to himself. Again, while I'm using Dan as our typical construction person, I'm now going to say that Jim Turner is not necessarily a typical construction person. He's been around for a long time, knows his own mind and everything else, and he's knows his own value to the point where he will not suffer fools gladly or otherwise. But imagine the number of people, Jim, that have... I mean, your son's in the business. You imagine if your son turned up on a site where he was promised the world and was given crap. I'm sure he's taken his receipt of what he was getting would be very, very different to your own. Paul McGrath is here as well. Paul, good morning. Absolutely correct. Good people being lost due to poor support of management and poor supervision. Yeah. Yeah. And, we talk about our people being our greatest asset. Why would you put your greatest asset through the things that we put our people through? Why would you do that? Well, and I don't like the idea of comparing men and machines, but I'm going to very, very quickly. We're always told that our men and our women are our greatest asset. Think about machines. They're carefully maintained. They're repaired. We feed them with the best fuels and the best lubricants, and we have regular maintenance for them. Any bits that are falling off are quickly replaced because we don't want them to go down. We're very careful about where we put them and what we use them for. We don't overstress them and everything else. Now compare that to our people. Pissing with rain, freezing cold, baking sun, go to work. We have our people are abused. They're often working in dangerous conditions, dangerous applications. We ask them to do things that we know to be dangerous, working at height, for example. If they really are our greatest asset, why do we treat our people so poorly? Mick says, put that video up yet, and did you mention this during it? Which video is that? If you're talking about the one with Patrick Williamson, no, I haven't. I want to get the IDE one out first, which is tomorrow night, 7:00, if you missed that. But if you're talking about the Patrick Williamson one, you missed the name dropping earlier on. There's Dan Cullen saying, morning, Paul. Mick Norton says, the sector has engineered its own demise by the installation managers and supervisors in positions well above their abilities. Along comes the CSCS to further muddy the stream. Yeah. But where are the checks and balances? I go back to this idea of a site supervisor. If you are a site supervisor, we know how roles and responsibilities work in this industry. So you've got your general labourers and your construction equipment operators who are overseen by a site supervisor. Site supervisor, in one way or another, is probably overseen by a project manager. Project manager is overseen by, a regional manager or whatever it might be, or a construction manager or a demolition manager, who will be across multiple sites. If you are one of those people that Mick Norton has just described, a manager or a supervisor that is in a position well above their abilities, you will, over a period, over one project, two projects, a dozen projects, you will have created a trackable churn of workers. We've got supervisor A over here who really is one of the lads, looks after everyone. Everyone thinks he's a great guy. You know, he goes the extra mile to make sure that the work gets done, but his boys are looked after well. And he has the same team working with him day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. Over here, you've got Supervisor B, who is a known fucking idiot. He is so stupid that his favourite colour is 7. He goes through people like other people go through underwear. He is constantly on the phone. We need another operator. We need another labourer. We need another traffic marshal. Who's asking the question? Who is saying, another one? What are you doing? Are you eating your staff? That's the 15th person that you've had to replace in 3 weeks. What are you doing? And surely at that point, somebody will go, do you know what? Not sure this guy is the right person to be heading this up, because he is clearly pissing people off on a regular basis. I don't know. They have no care for people on site. You're a number making them money to get the next £1 million, and you're replaceable at a moment's notice. I feel like that's enough. I feel like that's today. But what if the abolition of grandfather rights for CSCS cards does in fact lead to a mass exodus from the industry? And what if, as a result of that, allied to that, we can't get enough young people through the door? We've already got that situation anyway, but we can't get enough young people through the door. You are replaceable at the moment because there is more work than there is men and women to do it. But it wouldn't take a lot for that balance to change. And if that balance changes, they can forget their next £1 million because they can take on as many projects as they like. There'll be no bugger there to do it. Think about this Keir Starmer, and I realise what Keir Starmer does and what Keir Starmer says and what Keir Starmer does are two wildly different things. But he was promising 1.5 million new homes over the course of a decade, roughly 300,000 per year, which we've never achieved. Has anyone mentioned the fact that we don't have enough bricklayers already? Without his increase in the number of houses that he needs built, we don't have enough bricklayers now. Never mind when he decides to put another 100,000 homes together. We don't have enough now. And for bricklayers, read electricians, read plumbers, read landscapers, roofing contractors, whatever it might be. We don't have enough now. And nobody is doing enough to ensure that should he actually prove to be able to encourage the industry to build 300,000 homes in a year, there is actually enough people there to do it. Jim Turner says, true enough, I think my lad would probably wouldn't be as forthright as I am, but I'm not backwards at coming forwards if I'm not happy. But he didn't ought to take any shit. He's bigger than me, so he shouldn't get leaned on. Even that, though, even that. I know you're saying that partly tongue-in-cheek. He's bigger than me, so he shouldn't get leaned on. This is supposedly a highly professional, highly sought-after industry sector. And we know that people will be abused to the point where we're actually worried about, or we're concerning ourselves with, he should be okay because he's quite big. What about the ones that aren't quite big? What about the people that are... You're not backwards in coming forwards. What about those people that are forwards in going backwards? What about the shy ones, the new ones, the ones that are wet behind the ears, the ones that are very green, the ones that are straight out of school or college, the ones that by and large wouldn't say boo to a goose? What about them? What are they, cannon fodder? Is that what we're saying? Have we now got a system in place in this industry where we just expect... And I'm not talking about knocking the rough edges off, and I know there is a bit of a feeling in the industry that our millennial people are a bit on the woke side, a bit soft and stuff like that. But is that not the modern expectation? And even if that is true, even if they are a bit softer and a bit keener on nicer working conditions. If we are to compete as an industry, then we need to accommodate that, because there are plenty of other industries out there. Think tech, think pharmaceuticals. Even when you think about factories with their, their nice canteens and their air-conditioned offices, and they're working undercover, so they're not working in the pouring rain. And there's a degree of oversight, so you're not getting abused by your site supervisor or your project manager. That's what we're talking about. We are competing as an industry. We are competing head to head for our staff with, among others, Tesla, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Aldi, Asda. Those are who we're competing against. And I think if you take like for like, this is what I would get from working at a retailer. This is what I get from working for a demolition or construction company. 9 times out of 10, the retailer's going to win because of the working conditions, the pension, the stability, the regularity of being paid, the fact that, unless you're on a 0-hour contract, which are kind of being pushed to the edge of acceptability anyway, unless you're on one of those, the chances are if you've got a job now and you keep your nose clean, you'll have a job this time next year, probably the year after that and the year after that. Construction, well, I've got work for you for a week. Given the choice, if one of my children were of that age and they were looking for work, would I be pushing them towards construction? Not as it stands at the moment. Dan Callett says, used to get a crate of beers or a little bonus for your work, but now you're not even an invite to the Christmas party, even though we keep their jobs going. Yeah. Yeah, although I think that thing about crates of beers and stuff like that, I think I wouldn't say it's died out. I think it still goes on, but it's all a bit more undercover these days because of this whole, there was an anti-bribery thing a while back. And it used to be a regular thing where I was invited to golf days and boxing nights and, bottles of whiskey at Christmas. But that was all clamped down upon because, not so much for me because I am on the outside, but if you're a demolition company and one of your regular clients receives a bottle of scotch, have you just influenced his decision in buying demolition services in the future? So I think there's been a bit of a push against that. But yeah, not even invited to the Christmas party. Mick says, problem being with all this is simple. Too many bodies involved. I personally can't think of more than 3 people I would listen to. Why? Simple. They've done the job. I like to think some people have listened to me over the years. How many people in this industry? Well, let's use the government as a first example. Let me be absolutely clear here. I think Donald Trump is quite possibly the worst human being in the world right now. Just my personal opinion. But one of the things that has earned his popularity is, despite the fact that he has had many, 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 many failed businesses, he is seen as a businessman who is planning to run America like a business. Now, I hate him. I hate everything he stands for. I hate his orange face and his red tie and his ridiculous hats, the way he walks. I don't like his wife. I don't like his children. I hate everything about him. But I can kind of see where the Americans are going with that. You compare and contrast that now with the British government. How many of Keir Starmer's government have actually worked in any form of proper job? Virtually none of them. And then when you filter that down to things like the Construction Leadership Council, how many of those on the Construction Leadership Council have got dirt under their fingernails, own a set of site boots that aren't brand spanking new and in the box and don't have a speck of dust on them? How many could go to site in their own PPE, or how many would arrive and expect to be handed spotless PPE because they never spend any time on site? So who are they to run the industry? And, when you go to trade bodies are exactly the same. We've got the new president of the IDE, Adrian McLean, who is on and off site all the livelong day. All the livelong day because he runs a successful demolition company. Is that true of everyone that works in that? Is that the same at the CPA, the CEA, and all the other bodies that go with it? I don't know the background of the guy at the top of the Federation of Master Builders, but is he on and off site all the day, all the time? Or is he one step removed? Is he really getting the feedback that he needs? Is he really seeing the industry for what it is? Or is he getting this through the filter of what he's being told? No, done that one. Dan Cullen says, been on a site lots so long ago. Guys told me you're the 10th operator in 2 weeks. How bad is that? At the moment, the foreman was a complete prick. I told him to his face as he was shouting at a young labourer to ground workers. I faced him and told him to shut the F up, doing his job, leave him alone, walked off, and didn't come near us for 2 weeks. There's a lot to unpack there, but the only important real bit there is the 10th operator in 2 weeks. I'll say that again. The 10th operator in 2 weeks. That foreman is churning through operators at a rate of one a day. Once every single day, he pisses somebody off so much that regardless of their need for rent money and food money and beer money and stuff, they've said, you know what? Nah, I'll take my chances elsewhere. Who is overseeing that site foreman and going, you seem to be going through an awful lot of staff. Has it occurred to you this might be you? You know, and how many people do you need to go through before somebody asks that question? You know, if a person leaves, there's a site employing 15 people and one leaves, you go, well, you know, that's the nature of the business, isn't it? You know, somebody's left, you know, maybe they've had a better job offer down the road, and you fully understand that. But when that one becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 10, why is nobody saying, could we possibly have an explanation as to why you seem to be going through staff at such an alarming rate? Mick says, over the years, I've had to do a number of courses. I've asked many of the trainers how long did they actually work on the job on site for. Most said they've never been on site, but I've done a course to tell you how to do the job you're doing. How does this work? If we have this many skill shortage, then how can the industry carry on? Yeah. Now, I think there's a slightly wider issue with that. I'm going to put it back up. Because I think that highlights what courses are really for and what training provision is really for. It's not to put bums on seats in diggers. It's not to put people on site. It's to tick a box to say that somebody has done a course and has passed a course. If that's what you're doing, then somebody with no experience on site whatsoever is absolutely fine delivering that course. You know, if you've, you know, you were a shelf stacker at your local Sainsbury's, but you've been away, done a course, and you can now teach a course in asbestos awareness, does that make the person going through your safety training safer? No. Does it mean that they're competent to deal with asbestos? No. But does it mean that you've got them through the course and awarded them a certificate at the end? Yes. Which further undermines the whole notion of cards and competence anyway. What we've got a system that is designed to prove that somebody has done a course, not to prove that they can handle asbestos, not to prove that they can drive an excavator, not to prove that they can drive a dozer, not to prove that they can work in a demolition or construction environment without potentially killing somebody. They have taken a test to prove that they can take a test. That's all they've done. Mick Norton says, how I would love a Trump-like character to assume responsibility for the mess that is UK construction. We are lumbered with sycophantic yes men and women, which is ruining a once great industry. I'll come back to that in a moment. Mick? Yes. 3 points away from home. I don't get to wear it very often, quite obviously. So where are we? Going back to the Trump figure. So, this could go on a while, so I hope you've got plenty of time. And I know Dan Cullen is heading out the door because he just said goodbye. He also says this show keeps him sane. Good Lord. If that's what if that's what's keeping you sane, you kind of need to find another show to watch. But yeah, going back to this. You know how your man Trump has he surrounded himself with sycophants, obviously, Elon Musk and people like that. He is giving jobs to his friends, people that have supported him during his campaign. But he's also surrounded himself with a fleet of judges and stuff, basically partly to maintain power and also to stop him from being prosecuted. And that maintaining power, I think, is a very, very, very key tenet, which I think is being replicated in our trade bodies as well. Because if you get yourself into the right position at the right time and you surround yourself with the right people, even when your chairmanship or your presidency or your chief executiveship is over and done with, you can retain your influence. Now, as it stands at the moment, the US judicial system and election system means that Donald Trump can only sit 2 terms. He's done one, he's about to do another one. Would you be surprised, aside from the fact that he's 1,000 years old, would you be at all surprised if he could find some loophole that would allow him to stay in power for a 3rd term? Possibly on the basis that he did 1 term, then he was out, and then he came back. So rather than doing back-to-back presidencies, he can claim that, well, I did one, didn't do one, did another one, so therefore I'm entitled. Bearing in mind he's surrounding himself with a judiciary that will agree with his every word, could he do that? And even if he can't pull that off, there is nothing to stop him lurking in the background. So yes, J.D. Vance could be the president in 2029, but for all intents and purposes, he may just have a bunch of strings attached and he'll be performing for the cameras. Meanwhile, behind him, the orange fella is still pulling the strings. Exactly the same as our trade bodies. Because of things like, honorary life vice presidencies and stuff like that, people don't, it's not a conveyor belt where somebody has their time and then falls off the end. Somebody else has their time and falls off their end. What actually happens is they have their time and then they move over here and they continue to influence and continue to influence. Jim Turner says, nobody can make someone confident, happy in their own skin, or know their self-worth. You're either born with it or it comes to you as you live your life. I think I realized at about 12 years old, something just clicked and the world turned into a very easy place to be. I just lived my life being a reflection of the person in front of me. Nice to nice people, right the other way to ourselves. I think you came to that realization quite early. 12 years old is really quite admirable. I think most people, you kind of need to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and work with some proper arseholes before you realise that. Yes, I am wearing a West Ham shirt and I'm proud of it. So many courses now, it's ridiculous. You get some cards, it's not viable on some sites. Why? It's the same as the next man does a different course, exactly the same. Yep. Mick is thoroughly enjoying my shirt, which I shall continue to wear with pride. Mr. Norton, you are on the ball exactly. Oh, yes, sirs. Mick is on the money, says the other Mick. The sector is loaded down with assessors, verifiers, testers and trainers who are without the requisite sight and occupational competence, which is indefensible. But what is defensible, which is, and I'm not being deliberately contrarian here, if you are trying to create a competent workforce, what Mick said previously and what this Mick said now is 100%, 200, 1000% correct. The current system for assessment, training and verifying is not going to create a competent workforce. However, if you are just creating a system whereby you are dishing out competence cards that prove nothing other than the fact that somebody attended a course and satisfied the requirements of that course. That's what we've got now. We've got a situation, we've got teachers that can't teach anything other than how to pass the course. Look, if the Yanks want a convicted crook running their country, so be it. We have enough lying, cheating gits running this country, no difference really. So it's a fair point. It is a fair point. Why do they have so many different courses, different companies, and then we don't accept them cards? It's the same with a medical. You need certain one to get on a site. Medical is a medical. What's the difference? Why don't they accept your doctor's medical? Because the whole thing is, it's not a conspiracy. There's not an Illuminati about it. But we had this conversation about a week ago about PQQs, pre-qualification questionnaires. There was an idea of, if you're going to work in construction or demolition, you need to compile or complete a PQQ, which has, your proper name, your proper address, your email address, your website, your postal address, details of your insurance and various other details that you would like to be able to do business back and forth with. So, rather than anybody getting to the end of a project and saying, we haven't got your details, we can't pay you, you haven't paid us, why haven't you paid us, we haven't got your details. So all of that. So in here's an A4 sheet of paper that tells us everything we really need to know about you as a supplier. In theory and on paper, that is perfectly acceptable. That seems perfectly like a reasonable thing to do. Where that got queered, where you got different contractors saying, yes, we want your insurance details, but we also need this piece of information and that piece of information, and we need accompanying documentation to prove that what you've said here is actually exactly the same with cards, exactly the same with medicals, exactly the same with so many things. We have created a system that is overly complex and which is allowed to be more complex. And a lot of it is because we don't have the ability or the power to say no. If the 2.5 million people employed within construction and demolition could unite and say, that there, excuse me a sec, that there, that's my medical certificate. It's valid for a year, and I had that medical 6 months ago. I don't care what specific requirements you have as an employer. That piece of paper there, that's a medical certificate that proves that I'm able to work, that I'm sufficiently healthy to work, that I don't have any major issues or disabilities. That is a legally recognized document. You can ask for us. You can ask me if I've got an accompanying AIDS test or an STD test or a test for COVID or a test for influenza or bird flu or yellow fever or black fever or night fever. You can ask for all of that, but you can also at the same time piss off, because that there is a medical certificate and that is a legal requirement. That's all I need to show you to prove to get on that site. Exactly the same with PQQs, exactly the same with competence cards. This competence card, pretend this is a competence card. This competence card says that I am okay to operate machines on this kind of project up to this sort of size. I don't care whether it's ground working. I don't care whether it's mass earth moving. I don't care whether it's some weird application that you've just dreamt up. That piece of paper or that piece of plastic says that I am competent and proven to operate that piece of equipment. Yes, you can ask for additional tests. You may well require me to sit additional tests, but that piece of plastic that I hold proves that I am competent to do the thing that you want me to do. Sad thing is, as an industry, we don't. I've got a red card. Oh, you need a yellow one. I better go and get a yellow one then. I've got a yellow card and a red card. Oh, this site only takes purple. Okay, I'll go and get a purple card. I've got a purple, yellow, and a red. Is that okay? It's the wrong 3 letters on it, actually. But could you possibly do it again? Only this time get the green one. No. No, fuck right off. I've got a card that proves I can do it, but we don't. We just... Red card? Yes, no problem at all. Yellow? Yeah, no problem at all. Green? Yeah, absolutely. Purple? Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that one as well. As we speak, says Nick Norton, droves of training providers are delivering earth-moving plant courses for what is purported to be a level of competence. However, the greater majority are just teaching that novice to pass a test. No more, no less. Yeah. We've all been there. We've all been there. Good morning to Paul Clark at Sirius, by the way, just popped onto the chat over on Instagram. We've all been there. I didn't do particularly well because I was always more geared towards English language and English literature and stuff like that at school. But I did a maths O level back in the day, which I passed. It did not qualify me to be a mathematician. Same thing. You can pass an earth moving course. Does not mean that you are an earth mover. It means you're like me. You pass the exam. Doesn't mean that you are qualified to do that job. Mick says, mentioned the other week about a job that came up. Not interested in cards. The job was done with full insurance cover. Not one plaster was used in the first aid box. No neighbour moaned. All done with in-house training and approved. Is this not the way to go? Probably. But then I guess you'll also get that, as I've already said, where you've got individual companies requiring individual things. You might go and work with that company, go through their in-house training, get their approval. Okay, that job's over and done with. You go to another company. We need you to do that all again. And again. And again. Dan says, like lifting operators is not the law to have one, but it's for insurance purposes only on site. Yeah. And bearing in mind, that's we are subscribing to that system. As individual workers, particularly those that are self-employed and are having to self-fund their own competence cards and what have you, we are being required to have 1, 2, half a dozen different cards, all at our own cost, merely to satisfy a contractor who will pick you up and put you down like a hot brick, but who can then say, everyone on my site has a card, tick. At no point does that prove that you're good at your job. At no point does that differentiate you from the guy over here who's got a similar card but a different colour. You've got that colour, and then the guy over here. There's no differentiation. But somebody has said, you must have a card. You've got a card. That's all it's done. No idea how we got here from my very sarcastic take on job advertising, but I'm glad we did. The difference between your O-level maths and current card schemes is that your qualification was standardised and rigorously quality assured. says a man who clearly never met my maths teacher. No, that's absolutely true. My maths teacher was an absolute legend. He really was. Very quickly, very quickly, and I will tell you this. The school that I went to, my high school, was quite an old school, and we'd basically outgrown the main building. So we had a lot of these like porter cabin kind of classrooms, and as far as I could tell, the porter cabin where I did my maths lesson was a base on it. There was a concrete slab, wooden base, or a raised wooden base, 4 sides, and then the roof was dropped on, basically to hold the whole thing together. I'm sure there was something more complicated than that, but that was how it felt. We went in one afternoon and there was water coming in on one of the back walls because one of the back walls had kind of come out from under the roof, not by much, maybe 4 or 5 inches. So my maths teacher, Mr. McVeigh, who I remember to this very day, decided to take matters in his own hands, not his own house. He walked out of the class, walked round the back of and he basically ran and drop kicked the rear wall of the maths lesson, or the maths hut, which popped it back into place. The roof dropped a little bit and it all sealed itself up. But there was a guy sat there. You know how you used to sort of rock back on your chair? There was a guy at the back of the class, one of my classmates, a guy called Tim Brown, who was hit in the back with such force by Mr. McVeigh's indirect drop kick, knocked him on the floor. Yeah, Mr. McVeigh. May he rest in peace. I don't know. He may still be with us. I've honestly no idea. True, Mark, but they have 4 more jobs lined up for the next 6 months. All very true. This goes back to advertising, though, as many don't tell you what's required until you land on site. Yeah. Yeah, false advertising. I mean, let's make no bones about it. False advertising is basically illegal. You could be taken to court for false advertising, false representation. But who does? You have main cars that don't say green high-vis, red high-vis, and helmet require. Yeah. Even that, I mean, I mentioned PPE, but even that, we're crying out for workers, but you arrive in yellow and the site is orange. Nobody bothered to tell you, but you arrive in yellow and the site is orange. You're sent home again. That's a professional, well-organised industry, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, people, that's an hour and a half, which is more than enough. Dan Cullen says, it's illegal, but it's rife in this industry. Yeah, it is. It is. Listen, if any of you do encounter that, yeah, let's fuck it. Let's start a wee campaign. If any of you are sent job ads or recruitment ads that you know to be untrue, send them to us. Bag them up, send us to us. Give us the link. Let us go and have a look. I'm quite happy to go undercover and go and speak to a few people and see just how honest their job ads are. Name names, name and shame. What the hell? It's not that I'm particularly keen on this as a passion project, but I'm running out of people to upset. So why the hell not do recruitment as well? Dan Cullen says encounter it every day. I'm sure you do. Send them to us. We'd love to feature it. Anyway, people, that'll do us for today, I think. Mick says, stay safe out, fellas. The hound is ready to cock his leg. As am I. I mean, I don't actually cock my leg because, frankly, my aim is bad enough on 2 legs. But I could do with the loo. So I'm going to call it a day, an hour and a half in. People go and have a fantastic day. Back tomorrow with yet more of the same. Don't forget, tomorrow night at 7 p.m, we will be unleashing upon the world our conversation with the new IDE president, Adrian McLean of RMAC Group. You can catch that on demolitionnews.com, or you can watch it on YouTube, or you can watch it over on Facebook. Take your pick. That's what wearing that shirt does. Would you like another look, Nick? It's a thing of beauty, isn't it? People, have a splendid day. See you tomorrow.